All right, we're back, and I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Welcome to Share a Cup with us here on A Cup of Joe. And this segment is getting more and more special to me as I get the opportunity and I get to share the opportunity with you guys out there, with our giants, our icons in society. And this gentleman I'm about to speak with is no less than an icon in our society. I'm talking about Paul Keynes Douglas. Good morning, sir.
Morning. Nice to be here.
Mr. Douglas, this week, when Abeo told me that she lined you up, we went on YouTube and I started listening to a whole lot of stuff that you have out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was cracking myself up. I mean, I know the Tanti Mill story, but I didn't recognize that there was so much, a big body of work out there that you've done over the years.
Well, it's been a long time, over
Yeah.
35 or 36 years. I mean, since I started. And as I say, a lot has happened since that time. I've what, something like 16 albums, and I have 9 books out, and
9 books.
and a lot of other stuff in between.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot. But it's been enjoyable. I
Yeah.
mean, and it has been my life, my career. Looking back now, it looks like a lot, but at the time, it's just things happening. Things happening, and then the years pass, and it piles up. Suddenly we are like, oh, hey, a lot done. But it has been building from a start, with one story. You build up to there. We have so many stories and so much stuff done, But I mean, the society is still here, and I'm still here, and I still have the interest, so we're still going.
We're still going. What can I get for you to drink? Let me
Oh,
get
I'll have a glass of wine, even.
You have a glass of wine?
Yes, a glass of wine.
Lovely.
Of course, to share with you.
Lovely. Red or white?
Red, please.
Red. So a glass of red wine for Mr. Douglas. Let me go back to when it all started for you, because you gave me this book, When Moon Shine, by Paul Keynes Douglas, and you told it's dialect, it's written in dialect.
You're right.
You started in broadcasting.
Yeah,
way back then.
Yeah,
and how did that transition into storytelling?
When I came back to Trinidad in 1974, I did radio and broadcasting and television. I worked with Radio Trinidad as a broadcaster, and I worked with Radio Fusion in those days. Radio Fusion. I was the last voice on Radio Fusion. Actually, closed down that night with my program. And in that period, I wrote a lot of short stories. I began writing short stories, and I was trying to get other writers to send me their stories so that I could read them on a little radio program, reading on Radio Trinidad short stories. And of course, the guys wouldn't send them in, so I decided to write my own. So I started writing, and I had a lot of time in those days. When you work with Radio Fusion, there's a lot of time to write in the studio, because really and truly, Radio Fusion was like FM, today. And you put on one record and say, this is the voice of Radio Fusion. The time is now 7:30, and they play an LP for about half hour. No talk, just music. So in the time, I had a lot of time to write.
Great, here's your wine.
Thank you. So I had a lot of time to write.
Yeah.
So over a period, I put through a lot of short stories I wrote to read on the radio. And I decided as a project to make a little book, which I called When Moon Shine.
Okay.
And that was the thing that started everything, because I decided again because this is probably God guiding me to do these things, because there's no reason why I should just write a book and decide, let me do an LP. In those days, to make an LP was like a big project. An album was a big thing. So I said, why not put the book together as a program for Radio Trinidad, then launch the book. I decided, let me have a show. So I put together a group called Creola to launch a show at Little Carib. And we just taped that show that night. We taped the show. Not even a fancy taping, it was a long time reel to reel, those kind of things. And we got enough stuff on it, and somebody said, well, why don't you make a record? I said, well, I wasn't thinking of a record. It was a little book, a launch, a group. And we put the tape from that show, and we made the album called Tim Tim, which was Tanti the Oval, Sugar George, all the
characters,
all those people on that album.
And
that started my whole career, because I got more and more calls to come and perform the work.
So you were sort of coerced into the stage and taking this thing to another level.
Yeah, because I'm really into. I was in theatre.
You were in theatre.
I was an actor. I was always a man in the back holding a little flag. I was not a frontline actor. I like drama and theatre. And then, but when I did this thing, I had to come to the front floor now to read them.
And as you were sort of coerced.
So I became a performer, And I would never consider myself a funny performer. I was very serious, but everybody laughed, and I couldn't understand. I was very serious, everybody was laughing. So it took me a long time to accept the fact that I was funny. Now I don't think I'm funny. I always wonder why people laugh. I say maybe it's my face, maybe it's my teeth, maybe it's something, but people were laughing. And then I just accept the fact that I make people laugh. You know, even my own parents didn't realize that Paul, he's a comedian? No, you know, I was supposed to be a lawyer. You know, I was that's the career I wanted for myself, a lawyer. But I was sent in this direction. And as I said, it was something maybe I was meant to do because everything opened for me after that. I kept performing and I got more popular. Wow. And I became accepted in the end that I'm a performer. But I never trained or studied anything like that. You know,
it came naturally.
Yeah, it came naturally.
I because exactly what you said there, I said I've been laughing for the entire week in terms of listening back to some of this stuff. And the question popped into my mind. Is Paul Keens Douglas, or was Paul Keens Douglas a comedian? Was he a stand-up comedian? And I think there's a difference, there's a very thin line between a stand-up comedian and what you were in terms of a storyteller on stage.
You have different kinds of people. This is why I have the Talk Tent. And the Talk Tent, we designed Talk Tent 83. And it was really to show people there's a different in styles.
Right.
You know, not everybody who makes you laugh is a comedian. We only know one word in Trinidad, comedian.
Yes.
So once somebody makes you laugh, they say he's a comedian. Yes. But you have a comedian, you have comic, you have storyteller, you have rap, so you have humorist. I believe I'm a humorist. I use humor to make a point. Right? A comedian tells funny stories, and a comic tells stories funny, right?
Oh.
So there's a difference, right?
Right.
So a man can be very deadpan and make you laugh.
Yes.
He's not laughing at all.
No.
Another one goes rolling on the ground, foot up in the air, and he's making you laugh. He's a comic. He does all things. He does things funny, right? So you have all these different styles, and then some people are very serious, but they make you laugh. So when we did Talk Tent, that was the purpose behind the Talk Tent, because up to that time, most of the comedians in Trinidad were like MCs. You had Bill Trotman, you had Stockton Hill, but they all MCs at the tents.
Right.
You never saw them in full flight as performers.
Right.
So I started Talk Tent.
That's how Talk Tent evolved.
It evolved. So you could come and sit and look at the guys as individuals.
Yeah.
And then they themselves had to go and polish their material now, because this was not just giving a joke and running off the stage. This was like talking for 20 minutes, and you had to prepare.
And there is a difference between what those guys or what they do at Talk Tent as opposed to what you get at the comedy festivals.
Right. Yeah.
There's a major difference.
Yeah, because in this Talk Tent, people are more storytellers.
Yeah.
They use narrative approach
to
the humor, not the one-line jokes. They write stuff, and each one tells is a point. There's a point being made in the story. There's a point being made in the joke. So after the thing is over, you leave there with education. You leave there with something, a thought. And that's the idea. This thought supposed to make you go away and think a little. Because every time I write something, people come and say, you forgot to write about this. Because I open their minds. Why didn't you mention that, you know? So the idea is just to start you in a thinking process where you take it the rest of the way in your own mind. Because all of us have these wonderful stories in our heads that we, never come out. So the idea of it is that as using the storytelling approach is that it also doesn't die. I mean, I tell stories that I wrote in 1975, Tanti the Oval, Vibert and the Kite, all these were written in 1975. And I can still do them today.
It's still applicable today.
And the same response, right?
How's Tanti Mull doing?
Tanti Mull doing well.
She's doing well?
But
where did she come about in your mind?
Tanti Mull is really a type of behavior, really, more than a person, you see. That's why the character has never really been fully developed. In a sense, my greatest influence in this thing was Louis Bennett, the famous Jamaican storyteller. Because it's through Louis Bennett I started this interest in writing dialect. I used to be on campus at UWI, Mona. I was doing my postgrad there. And that's 1974. I came back from Canada, went to UWI, 74 to 75, 70. No, I came back from Canada 70 when they had all this bacchanal here, the revolution, all those things. Yeah. And then from 71, I went to Jamaica for 3 years. I was with Irving Hall, I was a sub-warden, I was all kinds of things in Jamaica. But I got very much involved in the arts on campus. And then Louis Bennett used to come on campus to perform for us as students. And I used to sit in the audience and listen to Louis Bennett. I said, well, I could do that, So I went back right there on campus and wrote the first story in that book, The Band Passing, And that started my whole interest in writing the dialect, right? Of course. So in a sense, you're pioneers because you had nobody to follow. Very few records were out. You didn't know who was writing. In those days, it was the black poets. Right. The black power. So there's a lot of influence from the oral tradition because that was the black power days. Mm-hmm. So you had all this wonderful black poetry coming out of the revolution, coming out of the black movement in America. So oral traditions were very much in the air. But having listened to Louis Bennett, I decided I could do this thing. And I started writing. I never went back to standard English as a sense after that.
At one time, I just want to ask one, because there's now what they're calling the spoken word. A bunch of young guys involved in the spoken word, and they're mixing it with a little music, but it's really poetry almost.
Yeah.
How do you weigh that up?
But spoken word is not new. We had spoken word going back years.
back.
We have always had it. Just as people seem to rediscover and reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, yeah.
But even in my day, we had spoken word with the Black Power movement. They had all those, you know, I said the last poets again influenced me. They were doing what we call spoken word. We had the Rhapsody, Lancelot Lane in those days that came up with the Rhapsody.
Yes.
All those things happened in the 70s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
But it seems that people rediscover, and you'll always have spoken word, you know. But it's just really your concerns in the spoken word. Some people can only do spoken word in violence. They have to talk about the revolution. They got to, you know, protest poetry then. It's finds its root a lot in protest poetry. People find a way of protesting in that, which is good too. But you can also do about flowers and about love and about anything. I mean, it's spoken word. It is language. It is dialect, you know. So my main thing is just in terms of the individual himself, what he chooses to focus on in his spoken word. But it's not a new thing. It has been going on, and eventually after this batch grows, it will die for a while, then suddenly somebody will come back, we're going to have spoken word, you know. And a sense of it is a lot of young people don't know their history. A lot of us in Trinidad don't know our history. In Pan and Calypso and everything. We think that everything started yesterday, you know. But it is really, I like it because the continuity. It is just the same thing coming out in different ways. And of course, out of each one will come a brilliant person. Some of them will hang on, some just there, then you have the brilliant ones who will last. Others will just fade away. Over the years, some have just started and some have just remained because they're the good ones. And this is good because we have to have standards and everything. And when you have a standard, those who are really, you see, some people are born to do this thing. They're guided. And you have to make the right decisions at the right time. You know, if you make the wrong decision, you always come at a point where you have to, like I made a decision in 1970 for what, when I left my job to do storytelling. People say, you're mad. You're leaving a well-paying job to go and tell stories. But I figured I can make the same amount of money as making a job. I couldn't be any worse off. So I used to be with McCann Erickson. I was a creative director there, copyright, all these things at McCann. And I got so many calls to perform that I said one day I'm gonna leave this job and freelance. And I never worked for anybody since that. I'm freelance, but it's hard work. You have to build your whole career and everything. But if you like it, if this is what you meant to do, you know, I always get a joke about when I was growing up, West Indian parents did not like their children to become things like comedians or comics. Nobody wants to say, meet my son, the clown. But if you're an engineer,
I saw that before.
Right, okay. No, I always could get
you
them
that. You want to be a lawyer or a doctor. You became a storyteller.
So if you like what you're doing, it will work for you. Because it's not something you're doing just so. It's something you want to be. And I think that has to be the biggest part of it, that you must want to be it. When people talk about passion today, passion is, this is what I would like the dead doing. This is passion. We use the word passion, you know, but passion is really something you really, really care about and you want to do. And I think that's a success, that I really like what I've been doing. And this is all I want to do now, nothing else.
You've done it very well. You've done it very well. I want to congratulate you on your body of work. And Talk 10 is still going on.
Talk 10 is still going on.
Talk 10 is still going on. And a wide array of books that Mr. Douglas, pick it up, take a read. A lot of history in those books that Paul Keats Douglas has done. Fantastic. Another icon passing through here on A Cup of Joe. We take a short break and we are coming right back.